Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Dragons. We have here with us today Hunter Fell. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, hey, I'm Hunter Fell. I do all sorts of weird gaming stuff, professional game master, streaming content, and I work for Start Playing Games.
Weird gaming stuff.
Weird
Now,
gaming stuff. I feel like that's the best way to phrase it because it's really any gaming stuff. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's do that.
yeah, my audience right now can't see like the background, but you do have like what appears to be like a goblin ogre. What is that in your
Yeah,
background right
so
there?
this is a dice tower.
Uh-huh.
His head opens up. You drop the dice
Oh,
in,
oh,
and
oh,
then they roll out here.
oh my God! I just
It
saw you
is
pop that
the
skull off. Oh my God, I'm
yeah. It
traumatized.
is it is the from I think the first edition books.
Uh-huh.
One of for D&D, there's a I think the player's handbook had this guy sitting on it,
Okay,
and
okay,
so
okay.
they made
It looked
a dice
familiar.
tower. Yeah.
Yeah, I know which book you're talking about now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's where I've seen that. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. That's a very D&D trivia type thing.
Yeah.
Did your group win D&D trivia this year, by the way, at the SPG thing?
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
remember. Oh, no, it was so I was originally so last year we did it and
Uh-huh.
I was on the team with Bob Yo and some other
Hmm.
GMs and stuff. And so I we went back this year and we were all ready to go. I was very very excited.
Hmm.
And was like sitting at their table to do it and then all of the people from my stream
Uh-huh.
their event had gotten canceled, and so they just went to like also do it, and they were like, "Hunter, are you abandoning us?" I was like, "Okay, fine." So I went over and did it with
Wow.
them instead, and we did not win.
Wow, you joined the losing team out of loyalty.
I
Wow.
did it,
That's intense.
unfortunately. Yeah,
Oh. Yeah, I mean, that's how you know that, you're a good person. Well, actually, I wouldn't have said that you were a bad person if you hadn't done it. I ended up
right.
just kind of at the bar with Shireen and her
Hmm.
partner,
Yeah,
and then getting to chat with them. I came in probably like halfway through, so I wasn't there for the full effect of the D&D trivia, but
I'm fairly certain Devin's team won.
okay, yeah, yeah.
I'm
That
not
makes sense.
100% on that, but I'm fairly certain.
That makes sense because I vaguely remember Devin saying something about how he was the best. Um,
I
so
mean, that could have been any conversation with Devin.
exactly. Well, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, oh man, I love him so much. He cracks me up.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember saying to him once, you have like very strong woo girl energy and also golden retriever energy combined.
Golden Retriever energy
Yeah.
is very strong. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah. He definitely has that. Like, if he's not the player character, he's definitely an NPC who has all sorts of crazy quests for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. For our listeners, Devin is the co-founder of Start Playing Games.
Hmm.
And me and Hunter are talking about our experiences at GenCon back in August. It's November at the time of this recording. Some of those months though kind of or some of those days kind of blended together at GenCon. Did you do anything especially fun at GenCon?
Oh boy, Gen Con was it's really hard to separate everything. I pretty much every night had some like weird event or party or something that I was at.
Right.
And I do a lot of the um stuff with Start Playing, and then before I was working for Start Playing, I did a lot of just convention stuff and worked a lot of conventions. So I have a lot of friends that are just in the convention space, and then also now have friends that are in the just TTRPG sphere. And so it was like every night there was 4 or 5 different things that I was like, okay, well, which one of these do I have to go to?
Right.
I think the most fun one was probably I cannot remember the name of it, but there was a entertainment party the one night at the oh, what's it called? Slippery Noodle or something like that.
Uh-huh.
That was just a very fun event and lots of cool stuff happened in there.
Wait, wait,
Um
wait. Was this a Saturday night party?
I think so, yeah. You
The
were there.
Hunters Entertainment. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Hunters
Hunters
Entertainment one.
Entertainment. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that one
yeah.
was a lot of fun. There were just a lot of people there.
Yeah,
I ran into a bunch of people that like I'm really bad with memory.
yeah,
My ADHD and object permanence is garbage. So I there's a lot of people that like I know and I've interacted with, but a lot of them I've only interacted with online. And when I would see them in person, it didn't translate in my brain. So I met a bunch of people that I'd only interacted with online.
yeah,
And we would start talking and be like, "Oh, what do you do?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I do this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, I do this stuff." And they're like, "That's where I know you from."
yeah.
Which was just fun to put faces to names.
Yeah, I had the same experience over and over again, and I suppose it'll get worse the longer that I exist on Twitter if Twitter doesn't go down in a um whatever however it's going to go down. But
Yeah.
people like were coming up to me and be like, "Oh, you're Friday from Twitter." And I'm like, "I guess that's how I'm known now. I'm that's that's my origin story. I am Friday from Twitter, you know. Um not from Gondor.
No.
I'm from Friday from Twitter." um, but no, that party especially was like very. I was not expecting there to be like an exclusive nerd party. That
Yeah.
I basically got like shoved in the door with Dot, who's like actually knows people.
Hmm.
Um, and I had I Hydrolord was kind enough to just give me a wristband there because he recognized me, and we chatted briefly about something
Hmm.
previously in the convention. Very very nice folk.
Yeah.
And I found that I am kind of surprised that I feel like most people in the TTRPG industry, and like especially during, I guess, a an event like that, or
Hmm.
just in general, I found them to be very nice. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was kind of
They're
weird.
they're very welcoming because the majority of people in the like gaming space, the majority, there are exclusions. But the majority of people in that space are like they're all nerds.
Right.
And like I feel like there's a lot of people in the gaming space who are like, yeah, they're hugely successful, but also there's a lot of this imposter syndrome
Right.
in the gaming space of like I don't even understand why I'm successful.
Right.
Like I just do this thing that I love and people keep cheering me on for it.
Right.
Um like I think the weirdest part about that party for me was I Start Playing was one of the sponsors
Uh-huh.
of the party, and I do work with them, so I was already there with like them.
Yeah.
But one of the other sponsors of the party was Alchemy RPG, who my stream is partnered with them, and I talk
Right.
with them constantly, and so it was like both of them were like, "We want you at the party." And like we have these VIP like
Right.
wristband things that you can have and get into the cool place and uh all of that. And it was like that is the weirdest experience for me as like someone who a few years ago was if you asked me what my relationship to D&D would be, I was like, yeah, it's my favorite hobby. I love it.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Um so very weird to be in a position where it was like
When
two of the sponsors of this event are both saying like we want you there one way or another, so we'll make it happen.
yeah. It was especially weird for me. I did not imagine on like my bingo list of like things to do at Gen Con that I was gonna hit like private industry party, but then
Mhm.
also have B. Dave Walters introduce me to women at the bar, and I was just like, it's just like things like have progressed and like happened that
Yeah.
now I guess I'm in, quote unquote. I'm in. I mean, I did
Yeah.
a. The only reason I win is because I was invited very graciously. I was very uh, happy to accept the invite from Dot to work for Global Press, run some games for them, and
Mhm.
they very generously housed me there, which was still altogether very expensive for me to go. I don't want to
Right.
undercut that,
Yeah.
but not having to pay for a hotel made it actually possible for me to go and to be on the panel for Global Press
Yeah.
for the freelancing, which was, I think, a very great experience. I was very happy to meet Diana D'Amico and Brute Ledan
Oh,
and B
she's
Dave.
lovely.
Oh yeah, very very lovely
She is
person.
such
Yeah,
a sweet person.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so exorbitantly expensive because I live on the
Yeah.
West Coast, so
Yeah.
all of that stuff is so far away from me. So for
Mhm.
me, because of cost opportunity, we were just talking about this prior to stream. Cost opportunity for me to go to like PAX Unplugged, which is coming up. I did the
Right.
math. It's $2,500.
Yeah. Yeah.
2,500, and that's if I find a place for cheap and
Right.
that I'm like
Well, and
rooming with someone.
you're West Coast, so like PAX West is out closer to you.
Right.
But like I and like because you're in that area, right? For PAX West.
Yeah, I'm in the
Um,
Seattle area. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm in like South Central Pennsylvania, so
Hmm.
PAX Unplugged is like
Right.
very very close for me. And so like Unplugged is a no brainer for me to go to
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
like I can drive down there easy, or I can
Yeah.
like spend $60 and get the train round trip.
Yeah.
I
Oh, that sounds
where
great.
whereas West I will never go to. I will
Right.
never get a chance to go out to West unless somebody specifically tells me that they are like flying me out there.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that disproportionately though, because I'm in tabletop and I'm not in games, I think PAX West is great to go to if it's for games. But I was actually talking to Jasmine about that because I'd never been to PAX West,
mhm,
and we were kind of discussing like who goes there and why I might want to go, and it was just like they don't actually have like, believe it or not, Wizards and like all those other people, they don't actually have a great presence at PAX West. It's mostly video
yeah.
games. So it's like, why is it worth it to go?
That's how I
Um,
feel about PAX East, which is up in
yeah.
Boston. Where it's a lot of like video games and tech
Mhm.
sort of focus. And like there's a good number of like board games, but the tabletop presence is much smaller.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm actually I'm actually talking to our campaign manager Anya for the Vineyard about doing PAX East because it's about a week before we plan to launch the Kickstarter.
nice.
So we'll see if we can make a measurable impact there. But
Hmm.
with some of the partnerships that we have, and we're forming and we're trying to, I guess, formalize, I should say, and like
Hmm.
sign, um, we think that organic marketing is probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
Meaning that, just gather emails, sign up for a newsletter. If you sign up for a newsletter with me, that's what you're probably going to get emailed about.
Hmm.
Besides like pro GM advice is like, eventually, I'm going to be selling the vineyard via Kickstarter.
Hmm.
So that whole process, it sucks. And I mean, I like it, but it's like very slow going, and that's why people don't do it. As opposed to like trying to bank on going to a convention and like having things happen for you. When I
Hmm.
think for the most part, I don't know how much is worth it to invest into a convention
Yeah.
for advertising. It's so
Yeah.
like people are there for the experience. They're not necessarily, and they might be there to like, if you have product to push,
Hmm.
maybe. But if you don't have a product to push and you're trying to get them to commit to something after the
Yeah.
convention,
Yeah.
I think it's very dicey. I think it's,
I've definitely been to conventions where I've seen like a booth for a product that doesn't exist yet, and
mhm.
they're like, yeah, we have nothing available here, but take our card and we'll be on Kickstarter in 3 months. And it's like, I will have forgotten that you exist in 3 months. I'm very sorry.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
Um, like
yeah,
like there's no I have a hard enough time remembering if I ate breakfast,
yeah,
let alone to back a Kickstarter that I talked to at a convention 3 months ago.
yeah.
Um,
What we are
so
looking at doing instead in that vein is that we are looking at creating a pamphlet slash zine.
mhm,
That's like a full magazine. It'll be like 10 to 12 pages, and it'll be like the Vineyard preview that you may or may not have seen about the Siren,
mhm,
but it'll be a different lieutenant, and there'll be a one shot included in it, and it'll be done in the full layout. So it'll be a small magazine you can take home. And I
nice.
think that might be a bit more effective. So
Yeah,
that is what
that's
we are
better.
kind of planning to do with Paxies, because it's something physical that people will take, and they are much more likely to actually commit to it if they say like, "Hey, this is a pretty good quality."
Mhm,
Minus like it's obviously not coming from our manufacturer. We're like just printing this thing.
right.
Um, but the
Yeah,
content is
it's like
good.
Alchemy had a Kickstarter that was launching fairly shortly after GenCon.
Hmm.
And so they had like they had written out a like a sample adventure of like
Uh-huh.
the
Is it Lost
adventure
Road?
that Yeah. So Lost Druid was their first one.
Uh-huh.
Their second one was the one that was coming out. But they wrote a mini adventure that led into the events
Oh, cool.
of the full adventure.
Cool.
And so they had that out as like just a thing, like take it and read
Right.
through it, and if you like it, like we're going on Kickstarter in a week or two.
Yeah.
That was also a cool experience for me because I'm credited
Oh,
in that
really?
like sample adventure as being like special thanks to
Oh,
Hunter
okay,
Fell.
okay. What
Jack,
was the special thanks for?
when they were writing it out, they like wrote everything out, and then they sent me the Google Doc of like, here is the full thing. Can you read through it and leave your notes? And I went through and just was like, I would change this. This needs to be done. The
Right.
balance of this encounter is horrible. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and just went through and I did it at the beginning, which was a very cool experience because they were like, as I was going through and like making notes, their editors were also in the doc and like
Oh,
taking
yeah,
my
yeah.
notes and changing it as I'm reading through the rest of
Right,
it,
right, right. Yeah.
which was a very cool experience for me.
Yeah. That Google Doc situation, I think, because I've had that same experience, it can kind of get out of hand where like me and M will be working on the same document at the same time, and like
Uh-huh.
maybe only one of us should type at a time. Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. What are you doing with alchemy lately? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So I have worked on producing an actual play for the last year. We went live back in January or February.
Hmm.
So we've been playing for almost a year now. We're coming up on the conclusion of it. But yeah, we did an actual play that uses the alchemy virtual tabletop and utilizes all of their overlays and stuff like that. And I built the whole adventure in there. And so we're coming up on the end of that. Hoping we're gonna talk with them when we're at Unplugged about like what the next project is after we wrap up this one. But yeah, it's been a cool experience to like when I met them. I met them at Unplugged last year. And when I met them, it was like their book had just come out, like their first one, and alchemy, like the tech side of it wasn't really like launched yet, but they had like the beta copy stuff. And I got to just sit there and talk with them for like an hour and a half about like, well, what is this looking like going forward, and really just enjoyed what they were pitching.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very story driven, role play driven GM.
Hmm.
And what they made with Alchemy is essentially a virtual tabletop that focuses on the immersion of a game for a theater of the mind game,
Hmm.
instead of focusing on like the maps and tokens and stuff like that. Which is my least favorite part about virtual tabletops. The only reason I like virtual tabletops is to show like something to immerse you. And so yeah, it's been a very very cool project to work on with them. But I'm looking forward to the next one. I've got so many ideas of like what my next project is. I just have to decide what I want it to be.
Yeah, throw a dart at the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have been getting more and more into like theater of the mind maps, and I find them to be
Hmm.
super useful, and I use them way more often than battle maps, and I have shied away from using battle maps almost entirely for
Yeah.
my a lot of my games now, because it's so much more versatile.
Hmm.
Um, and I think what you covered there about, if we want to talk about the evil word networking, um, what you what you essentially did was a form of networking.
Oh
However,
yeah.
it was a form of networking for normal people that normal people can understand. That when you go up to someone and you become interested, genuinely interested in what they're doing,
Hmm.
and you naturally will fall into these collaborative efforts with
Hmm.
people, which ends up being sponsorships and like other perks and things like that. And prior to that, I believe you worked with Start Playing, but you didn't have a huge social presence, right? So a
Correct.
lot of
Yeah.
that was just
I didn't have
organically
a whole
grown.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was running games on Start Playing. and then was like helping out part time
Hmm.
as they needed me. So I'd like answer some customer service tickets. I would go in and approve templates, that sort of thing. But it was a lot of just like eh, 20, 30 hours a week, maybe. Just doing what I can to help out. But the reason I started like doing that was legitimately just because I was already running games on the platform and was like, I want the platform to be the best that it can be. If that's where I'm going to be running my games.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, just continued from there. But my social media, like I despise social media. It is my least favorite part about doing anything in content creation is the fact that it requires me to have it. But yeah, it's something I had never really invested into, and our Twitch channel was very new when I made that connection. Because we launched in October of last year. So it was 2 months old at the time that I was making those connections. And it's just like essentially finding people that I already think are cool and am like connecting with, and making those connections. Um, but yeah, it's that whole networking at conventions thing is a very fun experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that my behavior at Gen Con probably wasn't like the I mean, live and learn, but I was brand new to the tabletop scene, so I was very much and my sales background comes from like recruiting. So I'm
Mhm.
used to being hyper aggressive,
Right.
which is probably not like the best for tabletop. But
You were selling yourself.
yeah.
Like you were
Hmm.
selling you have a product, it's you were selling that.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely a switch that has to flip in the gaming sphere, because like that comes across like there's a lot of very anxious people in the gaming world.
Yeah.
That yeah, it definitely is a different beast.
Yeah, I thankfully have had like a lot of people who are very interested in my success and have given me really
Mhm,
good advice in how to approach people and things like that, and just adjusting how I do that. I think ultimately, as long as you're not taking advantage of people,
mhm.
people are pretty forgiving of most
Yeah,
things. As
yeah.
long as you're not a shitty person, obviously, then I think most shit buffs, as they say. Yeah, as they say.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just like having flashbacks to like my former life. Yeah, so okay, let's talk about what you currently do for SPG and start
Yeah.
playing games, and where the company's headed that you're allowed to talk about and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I work in the customer service side of things. So I do a lot of customer relations. I talk with a lot of like if a player had a negative experience, I talk with them. If a GM had a problem player, I talk with them. And then I do a lot of the GM onboarding. So if you're a new GM on the platform, as you are going through setting up your account and stuff, at some point you will be presented with like, here is a link to sign up for a meeting with one of us, and it's usually either Devin or myself.
Hmm.
And we go through and show you like, these are the best practices, these are things that you should be doing, these are things that you should be avoiding, and all of that. So that takes up the majority of the time, is between answering tickets and doing that. And then I run games. Uh, Occasionally, I don't run as many as I used to, just because I don't have the time.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then my favorite part is the corporate games. I run all of the corporate games. So anytime we have a client that reaches out that's like, we need 6 GMs and we want the interconnected story and stuff like that, I get to organize the GMs and help write out a cohesive storyline that's going to work with that, and then pass it off and be like, okay, have fun, and interact with all of those people. It's just a very a very different sort of game than any other ones that I've ran. So they're just fun.
Yeah. Um, yeah, they corporate games are. Am I allowed to talk about my experience?
Yeah, you just can't don't name any of the
Okay, okay,
the the
okay.
companies, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I've done I think 2 or 3 now, I can't remember, but,
Mhm.
um and sometimes the players just, like, you can tell that they're at mandatory fun, and,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're
There
not
are
into it,
definitely
and
those
that makes
games.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
makes it, like, super not fun, and
I've
I'm
I've run a
yeah.
couple where I showed up for the game and there were literally players who were that weren't even told beforehand that they were going to
Oh
be
gosh,
playing D&D, and then they
yeah.
showed up and their boss was like, "We're all playing D&D." And they're like, "Why?" Like why are we our company
Yeah,
is not
right.
this is very weird.
Yeah.
And like some of those players then end up having a fantastic time, and other players are like, I'm not into this, and I don't understand why I'm being forced to be here. Um,
Yeah, it definitely requires buy-in,
yeah,
um, to play D&D. You don't just, like, show up, and I think that's the same with any game, really, to be
yeah,
quite honest,
absolutely.
but yeah. Um, yeah,
If
that's
I showed up to a corporate event and my boss was like, "Yeah, today we're going to be playing Monopoly for the next 6 hours," I'd be like, "N- I think I have meetings that I have to sit in instead."
yeah,
Like
yeah, for sure,
any
yeah,
any team building event like that, like I feel like a surprise team building event is never a good idea.
yeah. Yeah, my experience with them has generally been, though, that there are a couple of people that might kind of know each other, and you can just, like, have them with their pre-generated characters,
Hmm.
have fun, they have their office banter in character, they let them do silly stuff, you have social encounter, you have combat encounter, maybe a puzzle, maybe,
Hmm.
some
But if it's a
other
puzzle, it needs
social.
to be real
Yeah.
basic or a
Yeah,
way
yeah, yeah.
around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've made the mistake of giving like a riddle type puzzle to
Oh god.
a corporate game before, and watching them just sit there and be like, I don't know. I'm like, well, then I guess we're gonna go around it. Um, like maybe the barbarian should just try and break the door down. Let's see how that works. Roll athletics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
There
first time D&D players in a corporate environment, not the best. Not the best, if you don't tell them. You should probably
yeah.
tell them. If you're
Yeah.
hiring, start playing games,
I
you
man,
probably tell them.
I love the corporate groups that are like they told them ahead of time. The players
Uh-huh.
have done some research and they're like, so I looked into it. I was really hoping to play a barbarian. They seem like a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And you're like, oh yeah, let's make that happen.
Yeah.
I had one person show up that was like, hey, I know that you made characters for us already, but I really was hoping to play
Yep.
a tiefling ranger, and I was like, "Ooh, that's such a weird pull." Like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
make you a tiefling ranger. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is everybody else cool? Like, I've got all of it on D&D Beyond. Is everybody cool hanging for like 3 minutes while I get this set up for them?
Yeah.
Like there's some very fun experiences that have come out of that. Yeah, those games are wild though.
I really enjoy there's something about, like, getting someone who is playing a tabletop game for the first time,
Hmm.
and just that experience of, having them walk through the initial process and stuff is very,
Hmm.
I think, special. Um,
Yeah.
it's
It's
pretty
one of the
cool.
things I miss about like when I first started running professionally.
Mhm.
One of the things that I ran a lot of was like beginner games. Like if
Right.
it is your first time ever playing, sign up for this game. We'll make sure that everybody like they're all on the same page. Like we're gonna get you started. And like some of those games were so much fun. I love players that have no experience with the game
Right.
because if you have a an experienced group of players and they're going through a dungeon and they open up a door and see an empty room with one treasure chest sitting in the middle, they're immediately going to go, nope, that's clearly a mimic. But like a brand new player has no idea what that is. Like you
Right.
can
Yeah.
fall
Yeah.
back, like some of the classic tropes are classic tropes for a reason because they're
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But like experienced players know about them already.
Yeah.
So those brand new players seeing like the shock on a player's face when like they took down the orc and then he stands back up again, or
Hmm.
they go up against an enemy caster who uses counterspell on one of their spells. Like,
Hmm.
oh
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
goodness, that's such a it's delicious.
Yeah. Oh, Counterspell is so brutal the first time too. Like,
I had a group of very experienced players who had been playing for a really long time. They had just finished a game that like they had hit level 20. They had gone all the way through from the beginning, but they had been like those really high level characters for over a
Mhm.
year and a half. And so they contacted me and they're like, we just want to do a one shot. But we want to be real low level. And like we want to be destroyed. Like we
Mhm.
want this to be a very difficult game so we can be humbled a little bit before we start our next campaign.
Mhm.
And I in that fight took down their barbarian. And he was like making death saves. The cleric went over with their last spell slot to cast Cure
Mhm.
Wounds on him, and I
Oh no.
counterspelled it.
Oh no.
And the look of just abject horror on the
Oh
players'
shit.
faces as they're like, "You've condemned him to die." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's the bad guy. He doesn't play fair." And would I have done that in like a campaign? Probably not. Like maybe depending on the
Oh
villain,
my
but like
gosh.
in a one shot where you requested to be destroyed, I'm not playing nice. Those gloves come off.
Fucking Counterspell the Cure Wounds.
It was
Oh
it was the
no.
cleric's last spell slot too.
Oh
Like there were no
no.
other healers in the group, and the cleric was out of spells. It was brutal.
Wow. That's intense. Amazing though. I love it. Um so what's the future look like, and how have you seen Start Playing sort of evolve? Because I know you started in 2020 with Start Playing, right? As a
Yeah,
GM.
yeah. I was one of the first 5 GMs on the platform. When Start
Nice,
Playing
yeah.
launched. So I've been around from the beginning. But yeah, it's been cool to watch it sort of grow and change. Because when we launched, it was a handful of us GMs and like not a ton of players. It was like
Mhm.
we would put out games and maybe one of them would get booked. We'd see. But like the number of players that are coming to the site is just so much larger than it ever was back in the beginning. And like the number of GMs is astronomical. There's so many GMs that are like uh, realizing for the first time that, oh, I could be paid for all of the work I do. Is like it's very cool to watch that. The thing that I'm really excited about from the like from being a part of the team now is being able to see some of the stuff that is like coming down the pipeline and being like, oh, okay, this is something that like definitely should be coming. One of my goals in working with Start Playing has always been that I am a GM on the platform, so I am always a voice in those meetings of like, hey, this would be helpful for the GM side of things. Because we have a lot of data for the like this is what's going on in the player side of things. This is what players are saying. We have a lot of data for that, but there's not a ton of like this is what needs to be done to make things better on the GM side. Um, so that's very exciting to me. I mean, there's so much that the team is working on that I'm very excited about coming up. The big one coming up. Let me make sure it's been announced before I say anything. Bum bum bum. Yeah, GM refunds, that like the
Mhm.
GMs are going to be able to issue refunds directly from their side of the site, instead of having to like contact support and wait for that to go through, and then support has to investigate it and all of that. Like the GMs are going to be able to just go, oh, I messed up, I had a power outage, I couldn't cancel the game, something like that, and they can just issue that refund directly to their players. Like that's hugely exciting to me as both a GM and also a like somebody who deals with a lot of refund request tickets. Is like, that's just cool to me, seeing the little like quality of life changes that have been happening recently.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of refunds, I just had something happen to me recently. Um, I had someone contact me who had last played with me in like February, and they kind of
Mhm.
dropped off, and they had like one or two charges that didn't go through, and they like contacted me and they were trying to get those waived, and I was just like, "You're contacting me about something that happened in February, my guy?" Like, I'm just like, just on principle, the fact that you're contacting me 8 months later, like, I'm just gonna
Mhm.
have to say no. Like, I'm just like, maybe if you had contacted me a while earlier, like, I don't
Right.
know, like February,
Yeah,
like,
if you contact me like closely after it happens and you're like, "Hey, I didn't realize that I had to like leave the campaign." Like,
right.
I'm happy to work with you on that. If you just ghost me, I had a player at one point who it was one player who was paying for like a group of 5 people. And he just vanished. Like,
Mm,
didn't say anything. His payments didn't go through. But
mm,
like, him and all of the players just didn't show up for the game the one time. I was like, I don't know what happened. I reached out to all of them. None of them ever responded to me.
mm.
And I was like, I don't know
You did
what
something
happened
wrong,
here.
Hunter. You did something
Um,
wrong.
and so the payment failed. I was like, that's super annoying, because like it was a full session of like,
Yeah.
you were on my schedule. And then like months later, he reached out to me and was like, hey, I have a failed charge on my account from that game. Can you remove that so that I don't have that on my account anymore? I
You
was
booked
like,
the hotel, buddy.
you
Like,
you book you booked me. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
yeah.
The thing that most annoyed me about that interaction was like, none of the players showed up, which means he contacted all
Yep.
of the other players to let them
Yep.
know that they weren't playing, but
Yep.
didn't contact me, and also did something to his card to make sure that the charge wouldn't go through.
Yeah.
Like, that's so like,
That's
why?
us.
Why are you doing that?
That's us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thankfully that's not a majority of players. Majority of players are
Yeah,
great.
the majority of players are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, vast majority of players are great. And I think that the wonderful thing about I wish we had another hour to talk. You need to come back on the
Yeah.
show at some point, please.
Yeah.
But we've got like 5 more minutes here. Um, uh, the vast majority of players that you will attract is really down to like what you put in your profile. And I know that you have written like part of the article that new GMs can find
Mhm.
about how to design your profile. Like, here's what you should do for a profile picture. And a lot of GMs, when they first come onto the website, they're looking for like, hey, what's the silver bullet?
Yeah.
When really what it is
Yeah.
like, hey, how about you read the help
Yeah.
files that explain everything, and then from there you just go by the tips that Devin puts in the
Yeah.
question and bugs channel, and it's pinned. Like, it's not complex. You just need
There's
to do some work.
the number of GMs that are like brand new to the platform, like don't have anything in their profile yet. Their profile picture is still like one of the
Hmm.
generic images. Like they haven't done anything yet, and they message me and they're like, hey, I know that you were running games full time. Like, what's the secret formula to do that? And I'm like, first step, anything. Like, any step forward is the first step towards that,
Step
because you
one,
are
work.
currently laying down. You haven't
Yeah,
even gotten up to take the step.
right.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I am more than happy to help any GM who like wants help getting stuff set up and wants to be
Right.
doing that stuff. Like I'm hugely like I feel very privileged that I was able to run games full time, and now I'm
Hmm.
in a position that I can help other GMs also run games full time.
Yeah,
Like
that's the
I feel
dream.
very blessed to be in that position. But the the trade off there is like I want to be able to help. I do.
Hmm.
But if you aren't willing to help yourself,
If you're not
I
working,
can't help you.
you can't fix that.
If you send me a link to your profile, and you're like you say what can I do to make my profile better? You send me a link to your profile, and this is something I've literally seen in as the description of a GM on the platform. It said I just learned how to play D&D last month. Thought I would do this. End of profile.
Oh
I'm like, my dude,
no!
my guy, come on. I the number of
Oh.
this use we put a character count on the game templates, that there is a minimum character count for the description of game templates now, because of the number of GMs that were submitting game templates where the entirety of the description of their game was just this is Dungeons and Dragons. It's like,
My
come on, like
God.
put in 15 minutes of
This
work.
is
Like if
Dungeons
you
and
if you
Dragons.
are I tell people in the onboardings constantly, I'm like, when I go over the description section, I'm like, 2 to 4 paragraphs. 2 to 4 paragraphs is the sweet spot. Anything longer than that, like players are gonna start dropping off. They're not reading through all the way. If you go less than 2 paragraphs, give me at least one full paragraph. Because I've seen these this is Dungeons and Dragons templates, and they like that's not a description. It is a statement of fact, and it tells the player nothing they didn't know before they clicked on the template. Like, you if the entirety of your description is yes, this is the game you are looking for, like how do I know that? You've told me nothing. The name of your template is Dungeons and Dragons, and the description is this is that's nothing. You've done
Yeah,
nothing. You can't claim to be a professional GM and then do
yeah,
the least amount of work possible.
yeah. Yeah. And I love to put advice out there and like show
Mhm.
people like you should try this, you should try that, because this is what works for me and how you apply it and stuff. But what
Yeah.
kills me is when people like copy my ad copy style and then they don't even know how it functions, so they do
Right.
weird
They
stuff like
they
they
don't
use
know.
bullet points, but they don't put a hook in the bullet point. So it's just like a random thing. It's just like there's
Yeah.
a village, and it's just like, why is that a
Every
bullet
time
point?
every
Like,
time I see the emoji bullet points on a template, I'm like, oh, they've seen Friday's profile. And then I read through it and I'm like, okay, well, your bullet points are this is Dungeons and Dragons. You will roll dice. We will have fun. Those
wow.
didn't need to be bullet points. That could just be assumed to be true.
Oh, it kills me. And the other thing is that and the other thing that gets me is like, and I'm sure you deal with this all the time,
Mhm.
but when you like someone asks for help and then you explain like, okay, do these two things,
Yeah.
and then they come back 3 weeks later.
Uh,
Hey, I just haven't been able to fill games, and then I get back with them and I answer their and I ping them again, and I'm like, well, I don't ping the people generally, but and I reply to them and I say, did you do those two things? No, but oh, so you're looking for a different answer. You're
right.
trying like that mommy daddy thing where you just get to do like the easier thing that you want to do instead of doing the stuff that you actually need to do.
There's a fantastic GIF that Discord has the ability to pull up, of it's just like some dude, and he just like points up and it says this above him, and he's just like pointing to that, and I have literally responded to people with just replying to my earlier advice and then putting that GIF. And that is the only thing I will. If you are if you are asking me for new advice and haven't done the thing I already recommended, that's all. That's the only response you're getting.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, on that note, you have to go. As much as I would
Yeah.
love to keep talking to you, let's talk about the things that you're doing lately. where you want to
Yeah,
point people. I'll put your links in the description below for people that want to check you out and what you're doing. The
yeah,
floor is
awesome.
yours.
Yeah, if you are a GM on the platform, sign up for a GM onboarding. If you haven't done it already, go through the GM onboarding process with myself or Devin or Shireen. Anybody you can get into an onboarding with, do an onboarding. If you are not a GM on the platform and you're looking to play games, or you're a GM on the platform and you're looking to play games, feel free to come to my profile and shoot me a message and let's get you into a game. I run a lot more one shots now than I used to, because I don't have the time to do weekly campaigns as much. So if you're looking for weird and wild one shots, let me know. If you are looking for random content on the internet, you can check us out at Warlocks and Waffles on Twitch. And most social media is some combination of Warlocks and Waffles. If you search Warlocks and Waffles, you'll probably find us. But Warlocks and Waffles is my Twitch handle. You can also find us on YouTube. We're slowly moving that direction. So follow us there as well. We do our actual play on Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern. They are moving towards the end of that campaign, and then we'll be starting something new. Maybe on Mondays, maybe a different night. I haven't decided yet. But I'm very excited for that new stuff to be starting. All of the backlog of the actual play is on YouTube. And yeah, the game's really fun. If you join us on Twitch, there's like rewards that you can redeem in the chat to give points of inspiration to the cast and stuff like that, so you can help them not die as I try to kill them. And yeah, they're a group of absolute idiots, and I love them dearly. So come show them some love.
Wonderful.
That is about it. I don't know when this is gonna go out, but if it goes out before PAX Unplugged and you're at PAX Unplugged, find me, say hi.
I
I
think
will
it'll
be
be the
there.
week of PAX Unplugged
Okay.
that we release this. So if not, then
Cool.
I'm a liar. But
Okay.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um,
If you're there and you've heard this already, say hi. I will be around. I'll probably be wearing Start Playing swag.
there you go. I'm so envious. I gotta get my SPG swag on the second run, I think. I think I missed this window. But thank you so much for coming on, and
Absolutely.
thank
Thank
you
you for having
to
me.
our listeners. If you want to support the Patreon, please subscribe or become a patron, and that helps us out do this kind of thing. Thank you so much. Take care.